Buyer's remorse is a real thing, especially when you're buying something like a house. There's a lot of things buyers are doing that were not considered standard compared to a year ago. They're waiving appraisals and home inspection contingencies, and by doing this, they end up getting into a house that they're finding problems for them and their families, and they're getting into a home that they weren't aware of because they didn't do their due diligence up front. And maybe these buyers are having regrets in the location or the number of bedrooms they settled on because things are moving fast right now in this competitive market. What's up, guys? I'm McKenzie Miya. I help people buy and sell real estate here in Utah, and we have people that are reaching out every day that are relocating, buying and selling, and we absolutely love it. Honestly, if you're thinking about moving anywhere in the Utah area, make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, weekends, we can help make that transition so much easier on you. Okay, so the process of buying a home, it happens pretty quick and usually happens on average in about 30 days for most home buyers. But if you haven't been educated on the process, then you're just being thrown all these documents to sign and being told what to do. And in the end, you got keys, you don't even realize what just happened. I'm telling you right now, as a home buyer, you should be educated on the process. There's many ways of doing this, such as finding a professional agent, asking the right questions up front, finding a professional lender and asking them the right questions up front. Ask your agent how the process should go from start to finish. I think another thing that buyers have regrets about is the cost. They're wondering if they paid too much for the house or did I pay too much for the loan? And what happens through the process, a buyer gets approved for a loan. They know the amount that they have for a down payment and they have an estimate of the closing costs. And those costs, they can fluctuate a little bit. So when you're closing on a property, a lot of the times buyers end up closing and they don't even realize that it might actually cost them a little bit more money than they thought. Because in the beginning, they didn't even consider the out-of-pocket items such as a home inspection, and they didn't consider the appraisal that's also out-of-pocket. So this buyer's remorse starts to set in, and when you're having to pay this lump sum of money that you've worked so hard for and you've spent all this time saving, and now the reality is settling in that it's gone. Well, it's not really gone. That piece of property, it's still an investment. It's kind of like a forced savings account. You could get it back at some point by selling the property, but you're putting accessible money into something that isn't as accessible. So, there's this overwhelming feel of guilt and other things, but another one is getting the appraisal waived and they're having to make up the difference. And after they close, they're starting to wonder, should I have done that? Did I make the right decision? And that's completely normal. Just know that that might be something that you're going to encounter if this is you. Another one that deals with the finance and purchasing a property, and something that people are having regrets is they just don't understand how much it costs to maintain a property. They close on a property, they're happy, they're excited, then a couple months go by and they find a leak and you have to turn to hire a plumber, or maybe you have an electrical issue, so you reach out to an electrician, or the roof is leaking and you have to hire a roofer. It's just all these things that would have came up if you had a home inspection. And the majority of us out there buying property are not buying new construction. We're buying resale homes, and homes that have been around since the 60s, 70s, and 80s in many areas. And because those properties are older, even though things have been updated and maintained over time, you're going to encounter issues. So there's a lot of buyers out there right now that are using all of their savings to buy a property, to get into a property, to not have that feeling of missing out. And when things come up, they just don't have the funds. They haven't created that emergency fund or additional savings account for their property if things come up. So how can you avoid this? Make sure you have additional savings. How much money should you have? Each person is going to be a little bit different, but I think you need at least somewhere between 2 to 6 months of what your payments are per month, just in case of an emergency. Another thing that I see people having remorse on is settling on property that wasn't the right property to start with. Whether it was less bedrooms than they had intended to begin with, Maybe it wasn't in an area they initially wanted to be in. Maybe, it just doesn't fit exactly what you wanted in a property to start. But because the housing market was so competitive, you weren't finding what you were looking for, or you were getting outbid. And in those cases, you decided to settle on a property that wasn't really ideal for you, and then the regret settled in. Also, many people are going to experience this that are moving out of state. They moved to a different area because they heard good things about it and they didn't really know. And instead of going there and figuring out the area, or renting for a little bit and figuring out where they want it to be, they purchased a property and they came to realize, well, maybe I should have thought about this further. Maybe I should have considered renting here before buying to see if I really liked it. Are going to happen to buyers, especially in the environment that we're in. We have low supply, high buyer demand, and competition going on because people just want to get into the game, especially with the rapid appreciation that we've seen. So how can you avoid this? Having a plan up front, not settling on the things that matter to you. If you have a checklist of 10 things that you want in a property, chances are you're not going to get all 10, but organize that list in the things that are most important. So if the location is the most important thing to you, or the number of bedrooms is the most important thing to you, then don't settle on those. And then discussing it with a professional, a real estate agent that's there to help guide you. The idea out there for many is that for us as real estate agents, we're just there to sell your property, and we don't really care which property you buy. We just want to close the property so we can make money. And that might be true for some real estate agents, but the professionals in this market, they want to see their clients happy, and they want to hand them the keys. They want to see the buyers excited about the property they purchased, not only the day after they close, but 6 months down the road. Because if you're not happy, it's a bad reflection on you. So work with a professional, somebody that's not there to sell you a house. They're there to provide an experience and help guide you through the process. That is number one. And making sure you have money set aside outside of your down payment and closing costs for items that may come up, so you can avoid that financial regret of maintenance items that may be coming down the road and not having the money to take care of it. And lastly, don't settle, right? Don't settle on property, even in this market. If there's not property out there that fits what you're looking for, then just keep looking, or sit on the sidelines for a little bit until more inventory becomes available, because something will come down the road. But by settling, you're gonna have regrets. And the idea here is to avoid that buyer's remorse if at all possible. But, let me know what your thoughts are. Have you purchased a property? Do you have regrets? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe you have friends or family that purchased property out of state or just recently, and now they're starting to regret it for one reason or another. But let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll continue to update you on the housing market as more information becomes available. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I appreciate the support.